Joining me now in studio is Dr. Clayton Koganow. He's a naturopathic doctor in Lethbridge with Meridian Integrated Health and Wellness Center. He's also done some training in conventional medicine with a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science Kinesiology and 3 years of research on radiation and cancer at the University of Lethbridge. And today, we're going to chat about some digestive health concerns. Dr. Koganow, welcome back to BCN.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, let's chat a bit about the difference with irritable bowel, inflammatory bowel, and celiac. What's the difference between the three?
So let's start with celiac. Celiac is an autoimmune condition. So it's diagnosed through something called an anti-TTG or an actual biopsy of the intestine. That's the most accurate. It's autoimmune, so it's very severe, and it means that you cannot have gluten. Zero gluten in anything, even something so simple as like having a toaster with bread would cause, basically it's a depletion of the, they're called microvilli. They allow you to absorb nutrients in your small intestine, and it basically destroys them.
Wow.
So it's really severe. Inflammatory bowel disease is different than irritable bowel. Irritable bowel, you get off and on pain, bloating, and just more mild symptoms like constipation, diarrhea, stuff like that. That's more mild, whereas inflammatory bowel, that's usually an autoimmune, which is much more severe. It's a little bit harder to diagnose, and the symptoms can be a lot more detrimental to your health.
So what would actually cause IBS or irritable bowel syndrome?
Yeah, so that's probably the most common thing that I see. Irritable bowel syndrome, it can be caused by a lot of things. One of the main things that we see as naturopathic doctors that causes it is food intolerances. Now, a lot of other things can cause it. Stress is another huge one. When you're really stressed out, which most people are very stressed out in today's society, it shuts off the digestive tract, shuts off the digestive juices and secretions that allow us to digest food. So when that happens, food doesn't digest properly. It kind of sits there, or it becomes stagnant and it starts irritating the gut. When that happens, food can get through into your bloodstream without being properly digested, and that can activate an immune reaction called an immunoglobulin G reaction, which then your body can send systemically everywhere, creating a wide variety of symptoms.
So how do we actually fix irritable bowel syndrome? Is it a lot of the foods that we're ingesting? Stay away from those foods?
Yeah, so beyond a food allergy, beyond stress, you can also have things like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. How do you fix it? It really depends on what the cause or causes of the problems are, right? And so a lot of times I'll run a blood test, a food allergy test. It usually tests 120 foods, although you can do extended panels. And by eliminating a lot of the foods that might be causing that irritation or inflammation, you'll fully resolve your symptoms. If it's something like candida overgrowth or fungal overgrowth, then you can take different nutraceuticals to kill that candida, maybe go on a specific diet to kill it. And if it's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, it's a very similar situation to candida, although the protocol slightly changes.
Why do you think that is? Like when I was a child, I don't know if you were the same way, but I could eat and drink everything.
Right.
No reaction, no allergic reaction, no irritable bowel syndrome. But now that I'm a little bit older, I can't really drink milk anymore, milk products, right?
Yeah.
So lactose intolerant and all these other things pop up, and food allergies.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah, so lactose intolerance, about 80% of our population is lactose intolerant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to come across someone that can really tolerate a dairy product well. There's a lot of ways of getting around a lactose intolerance. That's to sugar. That's basically your inability to digest the lactose, sugar found in dairy. Why it happens as you get older, I think it's just we're exposed to a lot of toxins, we're exposed to a lot of stress. Things start not working quite as well as they used to. Perhaps we get dysbiotic flora, or by that I mean bacteria that might be unhealthy. We take antibiotics, so it kills off good bacteria and allows bad bacteria to come in, or maybe even just fungal overgrowth to come in. So there's a lot of different reasons why, as we age, we start seeing more irritable bowel syndrome, but it certainly can still happen a lot in kids and even like very young children too.
I notice as you get older, maybe it's the older body parts. Kind of like your car starts breaking down, right?
It starts breaking down.
Time for some new body parts.
That's right.
Now, how common is celiac?
Celiac's actually more common than you think. It's more undiagnosed than you think. I diagnose it quite a lot through blood work in my clinic, or I'll refer back to their medical doctor to do the testing as well. But yeah, it's a lot more common, and usually people with celiac present with slightly more severe symptoms, digestive tract pain. However, sometimes they just present with bloating. So often I'll, at the same time as testing food allergies or SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, candida, stuff like that, I'll just run a quick blood work for celiac just to rule it out, because it's so severe. You really have to do your due diligence when you're ruling out or looking into digestive tract
Any
problems.
chance of misdiagnosing someone, perhaps?
So the
There's
test,
a lot of similarities with it. Right?
yeah, no, because when we're doing lab testing, the lab testing is medically accredited. It's an objective lab test. We're sending it away to a lab. The testing itself inherently could potentially be slightly inaccurate. Like, I think a celiac test is about 98% accurate. Okay. So if we're really certain that this person has celiac and it comes back negative, we may want to retest again, or even get them to do a biopsy, which is not ideal and certainly not the first thing to do, but sometimes it has to be done.
I've heard of the expression, doctor, leaky gut.
Yes.
I've got a leaky gut. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so or it's leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability.
I'll stick with leaky gut.
Yeah, stick with leaky gut.
Okay.
It's easier to say. But that is essentially where your gut becomes inflamed. The cells in your gut become inflamed and they start to splay open a little bit. There's junctions that hold them together called gap junctions and tight junctions that hold your cells of your small intestine together. When those become inflamed, they can open up a little bit, and then they allow the food particles that you eat to go through them, instead of going through the cell properly. And when your food doesn't get down to the size that it should be, your body sees a big hunk of celery protein, for example, and it sees it as foreign and it attacks it. And that's where leaky gut can cause a whole wide variety of symptoms, like not just gut pain or IBS, but it can cause like asthma, it can cause fatigue after you eat, it can cause rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, acne, a whole bunch of different things.
Is there anything that we can do to actually flush out our system outside of water?
So to me, it's more first initially figure out what the problem is by doing testing. Eliminate the food so it takes some pressure off your gut, off your digestive tract, and then go on a very small and short-term gut healing protocol, something like a high-dose omega with EPA. It's the anti-inflammatory component of an omega-3 or fish oil. A really high dose of that, and then something else called glutamine, L-glutamine. And it is an amino acid. It's the most abundant amino acid in our bodies. And it actually binds the enterocytes, or the gut cells, back together.
How much does stress impact our overall gut health?
Hugely. Stress stops your digestive flow. It stops the motility. It's a massive component of it. Absolutely.
And what about probiotics? We touched on them a little bit earlier. How important are they to our overall health as well?
Probiotics, they're hit and miss. They're often overused, actually.
Oh.
A lot of times people don't understand that a probiotic can be detrimental to your health as well. And so overall, probiotics are very good, and for sure people can take them. But for example, if you have candida or a fungal overgrowth and you take a probiotic with a sugar in it called fructooligosaccharides, or FOS, you'll make that problem way worse. You'll feel a lot worse. So a lot of patients that I see, they'll come in and they'll say, why do I feel so bad after I took this probiotic? Right. And then we'll do some testing on them and say, you actually have candida. Similarly, with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, if you take a probiotic, you're adding to the good, healthy bacteria that have migrated from your large intestine into your small intestine, and it'll make your symptoms way worse.
So if we actually did need a probiotic in our diet, instead of the capsules or tablets, what natural foods could we ingest?
Well, you can ingest yogurt, although it's more for maintenance. Kombucha is the same thing.
Is it like the non-sugary yogurt? Because I like the nice thick Greek yogurt with all the sugars.
I don't think it really matters.
It doesn't matter?
No,
Oh.
but the sugar itself probably isn't good for you.
Well, that's the tasty part.
I know,
You got to
right?
work with me
Well,
on this.
hey, you got to have some give and take, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, probiotics, fantastic.
Cottage cheese,
They're
would
good.
you have anything in there? Maybe not cottage cheese.
No,
No?
no,
It's more
not
the
really.
yogurts?
Yeah, cottage cheese will have a lot of lactose in it.
Right,
Might upset
right,
your
yeah,
stomach.
Yeah, well, but for me it would. You're right, absolutely. Okay, what about heartburn? A lot of people get it, or
Yeah.
was it gastroesophageal reflux disease,
Yeah,
GERD? You know, a lot of
GERD, yeah.
people have that. I've heard that apple cider vinegar may actually help with that naturally. What are
Right.
your thoughts?
Yeah, so apple cider vinegar, the reason why it might help for some people, because heartburn can be a little bit complex, but it would help in the instance that you actually had low stomach acid. And that wouldn't allow, so sometimes patients, as we age, we actually decrease our stomach acid production.
Oh.
So a lot of times patients will come in and say, it just kind of started, now I'm getting heartburn. Well, a lot of times it has to do with the fact that you're getting low stomach acid and it's not allowing the sphincter to close off. So that any bit of stomach acid that is present in your stomach is splashing up into your esophagus. In cases like that, if somebody takes something acidic, like apple cider vinegar and even HCl pill, their symptoms of bloating or heartburn will fully go away.
Wow.
In the case that somebody has an ulcer, that would make them much, much, much worse in the fact that then they would have to take a Tums or some type of antacid to neutralize that immediately. Otherwise, they do more damage. So you got to be a little careful with it.
Now, how would you diagnose digestive tract issues?
Just in general,
Yeah.
Digestive tract, I would do lab testing.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, that's the number one. I mean, we take a really detailed history of the patient, which is extremely important. And from that, we can base, okay, which lab tests do we think we need to do?
Do they
Because
come back within a week? Like how soon do you get
you
results?
typically, between a few days to a couple weeks, depending on the lab that we use, how in-depth it is. But yeah, lab testing is really key because the digestive tract is really compartmentalized. So the stomach has certain symptoms, the liver has certain symptoms that can cause digestive issues, large intestine, small intestine, they all have different lab tests associated with them and symptoms associated with them.
Now, what about a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth?
Yes.
How does that affect your overall gut health, or SIBO, I guess?
Yeah, so SIBO,
SIBO,
is
right.
what we call it,
Okay.
or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So
Yeah.
it is where bacteria, which normally inhabit the large intestine, that's where they should be, that's where they're healthy, but they've moved into the wrong spot. And they've moved into the wrong spot for a lot of reasons. Usually it's retroactive flow if somebody's sick or something like that, but surgeries can do it. There's a lot of different reasons. SIBO, we can diagnose it with a breath test, actually. That's the most accurate way to diagnose it. Yep,
Okay.
It's the gold standard. And SIBO, basically what it does is it can cause either IBS in general or really bad constipation, really bad, not usually diarrhea, but usually really bad constipation and bloating. Bloating is a huge symptom of it. And the reason is because when you eat food and it goes into your small intestine, you have now a bunch of bacteria that shouldn't be there that eat your food. So you're not getting the nutrients that you should be getting because the bacteria are eating it, and they're producing hydrogen gas or methane gas because they're eating the food.
So how would you actually treat SIBO then?
So really, you have to kill the good, healthy bacteria that are in the wrong spot.
Wow.
So that's where if you took a probiotic and you had SIBO, you're just adding healthy bacteria to the wrong spot. And you're never going to fix it. You can also do something called a low Fodmap diet. So there are certain sugars that will feed that bacteria. It won't fix the problem per se, but it will decrease a lot of your symptoms. But certain herbs, actually herbs and antibiotics have been studied extensively. The herbs actually work just as good as the antibiotics do. And the antibiotics, unfortunately, won't kill the methane-producing bacteria. They'll only kill the hydrogen-producing bacteria. So often I'll use a combination of the two, or just herbs to kill it. You can also do something called an elemental diet.
Okay.
And it's called a physician's elemental diet because it is a tricky one to do. It is a liquid diet for 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
Fully nutritious, like
Yeah.
it supplies your body with every nutritional need that it needs, but it's a liquid diet.
Interesting,
Yes.
fascinating.
Yeah.
How would you help a pregnant woman with her gut health? And more specifically, because you're actually helping 2 people.
Yes.
Or maybe even more if she has twins.
Yeah, yep, that's a good point. You have to be a little bit careful with that because I don't like guessing.
Of course.
That's where testing really comes in because you don't ever want to tell a kid or someone that's pregnant who needs those nutrients to eliminate a food without actually knowing that they need to eliminate a food. So I would do a food allergy panel on them or a food sensitivity panel on them, tell them exactly what might be irritating their digestive tract, and then be really careful with respect to what supplements we put them on, because certain supplements would be more contraindicated in pregnancy, and after pregnancy then we can treat it a little bit more aggressively. But
Before I let you go, I want to ask you a bit about seniors and how you help a lot of seniors with their gut health. What are some of the major issues you're seeing when seniors come see you?
It's a good question. There's not. Honestly, it's very similar. Digestive tract issues, as you just said, they kind of almost become a little bit more prevalent as we age. I think with seniors, one of the biggest things is actually malnutrition. A lot of times seniors aren't really eating a healthful diet or enough. It seems like a lot of times appetite decreases, or maybe their gut is just in pain. And so just kind of working through that with them is probably the most common thing that I see.
Dr. Clayton Koganow, naturopathic doctor in Lethbridge with Meridian Integrated Health and Wellness Center. Thanks a lot for joining me again in studio.
Thanks again for having me.